Good evening, friends and neighbors. Welcome back to the Game Space Game Show, the only show where the best part of fall is when a new Fallout releases, which it makes perfect sense. And we are back. We've had a short fall hiatus in fall, because it is currently fall, due to scheduling conflicts. So we've missed exactly 2 shows, and now we have so much news and information to catch up on. It's almost unfair because we won't be able to get to everything this week. But one thing we will be able to get to, big emphasis on thing, is our good buddy Bowman over here. Bowman, how are you this nighttime?
It's night. I'm not sleeping. I must be doing good.
And hello to our other co-host this evening. He is... he's a man. He's known...
That sounded like a question.
He's known for...
Can confirm.
Macaroni and cheese.
Well, he is a dame, so...
He dresses up his chairs in gaming attire and toys sometimes. I think... he probably enjoys a good sweater now and then. Dame, is that accurate? Am I doing that right?
I would say that's fairly accurate. Yeah, yeah, that's good.
I mean, for my money, is there anything better than a good sweater? Really?
I mean,
sweater best.
No. I mean, I would go zip up hoodie before sweater,
really?
But yeah, I would.
I don't know.
Long sleeve shirt hoodie. Yeah.
I mean, the hoodie's great, I guess. You know, if you're going for like the Luke Cage look or something. But, you know, for me personally, I mean, just like a nice sweater that looks like it came like straight off a goat or something, like can you get better than that?
I have not had that experience, so I will have to get back to you once I do.
Okay.
I'll reserve judgment.
And the sweaters would be coming off the sheep, not the goats.
Whatever. You could have goats. Sometimes goats want to make sweaters. I mean, I'm not gonna tell them they can't. I mean, it's 2018. Goats can make sweaters. Doesn't have to be sheep. There's a lot going on, and one thing we're gonna rub on a little bit this week is BlizzCon, which I know very little about because I don't blizz as often as I con. But from what I'm able to understand is that there's a lot going on there. Something that has been mildly controversial, that's what I'm going to throw out there first, is news that they're launching a Diablo mobile game, Diablo Immortal. According to sources, all of which have been, Blizzard and NetEase, so I guess they're reputable sources. It's supposed to be a full-fledged action game. And, you guys love Diablo stuff, so talk to me about your feelings. Get them out. Let me know. How do you feel? I'm going to show some gameplay while that happens.
Oh, Bowman, why don't you go ahead and start with it, man?
Oh, jeez. We're talking about mobile Diablo. I don't know. I played so much Diablo 3 because of all the new seasons after season after season. I think at this point we've had so many years of Diablo 3 and nothing new except for Necromancer. Yeah. That I am so drained on Diablo 3. I'm just ready for either like a remaster of Diablo 1 or 2 or a new Diablo game. I might try the mobile one just to see how it plays.
Oh, you'll try it. We know you will.
But yeah, I definitely haven't played much Diablo 3 lately. I did start a new Necromancer character this season to try and level up and see if there's anything different. Not much.
Well, what's interesting to me is that, I mean, the ARPG genre, I think, has some pretty interesting potential on the mobile platform because, I mean, most of them are the point, shoot, loot sort of games. Right. And so with everything that we're seeing from the UI, it looks to be like it could translate well. One of the interesting things that I saw is that they're telling a new story and doing some new zones with this. which is kind of interesting because they're bridging the gap between Lord of Destruction and Diablo 3,
right?
Which there is a fair amount that's going on there that's kind of left you going, okay, how did we get from Destruction of Worldstone to conflict in the high heavens, to Tyrael being cast out, to all the stuff with Adria and whatnot. And I realize that I'm speaking like gibberish to you, Stephen, but
gibberish.
But yeah, it's interesting. This is one of those things like the goat hair sweater. I'm going to reserve judgment on it until I see it. Is it something that I was looking for? No, not really. But hey, look, it's Blizzard. They generally do a decent job handling their IP. They're usually pretty protective with it. And if they're bringing it to a mobile platform, chances are they're probably going to do okay with it. I did see a little bit of controversy that during the Q&A, somebody stood up and asked if this was a joke.
I'd be asking that.
Which, I mean, is it kind of... I kind of scratching my head at that one. I mean, because you're at like their biggest event that is all about them in the year, and they're presenting this thing like, hey, look at this thing that we've been excited about and we're presenting, and is this a joke?
Well, that's it? That's all you have for us?
I think like people don't really understand like the concept of an action RPG on a mobile platform, and me being a guy who currently is in love with one, it hasn't released globally yet. DC Unchained, I've been talking about it for a little while. But I mean, it's action RPG in pretty much in the same vein of Diablo Immortal, and there are a lot of games that are very similar to it. Now, one of the things that really kind of makes me wonder about Diablo Immortal is, and I mean, I watched the trailer just now for the first time, and it looks pretty good. And that's one thing that with a lot of these action RPGs on mobile is that graphically they're very good looking. I mean, they're very pleasing to the eye. A lot of people complain, oh, low poly count, this and that. But when you're looking at it on a mobile screen, it actually looks really, really good. It plays pretty well. But one of the things that a lot of these games have is they have like the autoplay feature. Because, and I don't know if they're going to be going that way. Did they mention anything about having the potential of an autoplay feature in this game?
I have not really been keeping up with the individual details of everything, so I couldn't tell you.
I mean, most of them do have autoplay features because whenever it's on a small screen like that and it's a hack and slash, it's just kind of like, I can't sit there and do this motion with my hands,
right,
all day long on my phone.
It's like Star Wars Galaxies of Heroes. They have autoplay because who wants to tap each and every button every time you do something?
And at first I was like, oh man, autoplay games are just like so boring. I don't get to actually do anything. But the thing that I really like that DC Unchained did is that they added missions and bosses where you absolutely cannot autoplay them. You'll get to a point where basic missions that you run all the time, if you're like farming for gear or something like that, it's so easy just to set your character on just go and do these kind of things, and I don't need to watch everything that you're doing. I know what you're doing. And then there's these missions where it's you can't autoplay because the moment that you do, you fail an objective, you die to a boss. And if Diablo Immortal is anything like that, where you don't have to be present for every single little thing, but you absolutely have to be present for some of the big boss fights, some of, if they have events or something like that, I think they could do really well. And I think players are actually going to enjoy it a lot more than, those people who play Diablo 3 and every single mission, every single thing that they're doing on a computer isn't autoplay, and they have to sit through those grinds of grinding for gear, grinding for everything over and over again. And you guys play Diablo more than I did, so maybe you can speak a little to that about that, constant grind. Do you feel like that would help in a game like this, or no?
For Diablo 3, the biggest thing with that is leveling up. You don't actually have to grind anymore. I mean, all you have to do is get in a room with somebody who's already leveled up and just sit there, let them do all the work.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that. I mean, but there's still the gear grind and stuff like that too.
Yeah, gear grinding is kind of nuts.
And when you get into some of the greater rifts, especially mob density is one of those things on certain tile sets that's just it's hot garbage trying to get around some of those tile sets. So having an auto run feature that's like, oh hey, this is the route that you're supposed to take to get you from point A to point B would be fantastic. Yeah,
and then when you have 20 guys right at the front door before you even walk into the thing, that makes it even more ridiculous.
That's just a sanity check right there.
That's when I say, sorry, not leveled up high enough, I'm dropping the difficulty.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what to expect. I'm guessing that it's kind of like the game that I'm currently playing because it looks similar to it, but you never know. I'll say this. Blizzard's been one of those companies that they've always been able to take something that's already there and then they make it more accessible and a little more polished. And, you know, there are already games out there like this that are widely popular. I mean, there are a lot of games that already kind of have this action RPG thing that are extremely popular on mobile. So while like the core, like, player base of Diablo 3 right now is probably looking at this like you guys are telling a joke, there's a greater population out there of casual mobile gamers who would relish in enjoying something like Diablo on a mobile platform.
And I would also add to that one of the interesting things that we've been seeing with what Blizzard has been doing with this IP, and this has been kind of an offline conversation that I've been having with another one of our writers, Matt Keith, you know, in kind of approaching BlizzCon, like what we thought some of the predictions would be, you know, as far as what we were going to get. And leading up to it, one of the things that we had really felt was being teased was a Diablo 4. Now, that being said, one of the things that Blizzard has done in the last couple of years has been really, really smart. They've taken an IP that they've already had, that people are already playing, and have transported that into the console market. And so you have the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and now Nintendo Switch all have that. And Matt actually wrote the review for it for Nintendo Switch for MMORPG, and one of his comments was that is now his preferred way of playing the game. Yeah. Because they find some things with it that are a little bit more limited on the PC. So take all of that, and then you add this other element of the you have a story that hasn't been told in in between some generations of people who may or may not have played previous games, and it's almost like this connecting point or anchoring point between what was and then what's coming out after that. Blizzard has already said, and their people have already been very vocal that there's something else that's going to be coming, but they weren't quite ready to announce that what that was just yet. Right. That players would want to hang on, that there's going to be something else that's coming. And so I don't think that this is what that was, but it's smart, though, because it's going to make people who are maybe kind of interested in getting into it figure out a little bit more of the universe and the lore and get a little bit deeper into what's actually going on within the game, right. And to transition into a brand new release. I think the engine on the hype machine is getting stoked. Yeah, and I think that this is a little bit of extra fuel for the fodder.
Well, one thing that I will say, after this was announced, I checked the Reddits out there. I tried to see like what the community thought about this, because it seemed like the initial reaction was like, as you said, people were kind of stunned by it. They didn't know what they were thinking. In terms of, you know, why they decided to release this kind of game to a mobile platform. A lot of people were saying, oh, can't we play it on PC? When's it going to be on PC? And, you know, the answer to that was no, it's a mobile-only game. So to people out there who have a potato for a phone or are still using two cans on a string, I would say don't worry about it, because there are programs out there like BlueStacks. Nox is another good one. These are basically emulators that will allow you to play these games from Android. Sometimes they have some that do iOS too. But you can play the game on PC, but I'm telling you, you're not going to want to play the game on PC. I mean, if it's built for mobile, the simplicity of it is so that you can pick it up and play it anywhere. And you're not going to, I would imagine a lot of people aren't going to want to be sitting there on a PC doing that. Now, I will also say that something that I see sometimes is, you know, when you have these emulators like BlueStacks, you can actually have multiple ones running at the same time. So sometimes on action RPGs, you can have multiple games running and have a full team just by yourself running autoplays. That's something that I've seen quite often, even in DC Unchained. But I wouldn't say that that's going to be the norm, and I wouldn't say that people who are interested in Diablo Immortal would want to do that. But it's definitely a possibility. Bowman, were you thinking about that? Because you had your little hand there.
I was just saying, I'm one of those people that uses BlueStacks sometimes, and a couple different ones, but you just have to make sure that you have an active Wi-Fi connection running through the PC you're using. Otherwise, some of those will not work.
Very
so
true.
My desktop does not have Wi-Fi built into the card. I was going to have one of those, but then my brother-in-law, who pieced it together for me, found a card with a processor and a combo that didn't have the Wi-Fi. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I tried loading it onto my PC and it didn't work. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to play on my laptop.
Well,
that's got Wi-Fi.
I would say definitely try it again whenever this stuff happens, because I don't know how many actually have that issue, but I don't really have that issue these days. But I also use Memu, M-E-M-U.
I use that one too.
Yeah, that one's a good one. And then
some of them, depending on the game though, some of them are very, very slow. Yeah. Like, I'm a big Dragon Ball Dokkan Battle player, and I like playing it on my phone, but I wanted to have two concurrent profiles, so I played one on my computer. Yeah. But it's just so, like, even on super speed, like, 2 times speed is the fastest you can go on that. The guys are, like, going...
Well, I think that could also be because you might... Your computer may not be up to snuff, because a lot of it is CPU intensive. For stuff like that, and I don't know.
But stuff like that is not. It's not playing PUBG. Let's put it that way. My CPU should be able to put these without.
But it's not. But I mean, even on mine, with like both of mine, that I mean, I have pretty good CPU and GPUs, and it still runs kind of slow. It's still kind of, because it is an emulator. So games eventually have to be optimized for those, but we're kind of going like off
the rails.
But like,
it's his fault.
Yeah, I'm saying that you will be able to play Diablo Immortal on these emulators, whether or not you're going to be able to play it really well. But I'm pretty sure that since it's going to be a popular game, they have to optimize it for those emulators, and they've been doing that. BlueStacks especially has been doing that for quite some time. So for people who don't want to play it on their phone, they want to play it on their PC. Another cool thing is that you can actually like program it with a controller so that you can place the little things and use the buttons and everything, just like you're playing it on a PC, but you're playing it on an emulator. Now, nothing wrong with doing that, but I would say you're going to want to play it on your mobile phone if it's going to be built for mobile phones. But let's move on, talk a little bit about Warcraft. I don't Warcraft, you guys Warcraft, so
yes, indeed.
It sounds accusatory on my end, but you know, I said it, so I'm going to allow it. And Warcraft 3 Reforged, take it away, Dane. What do you got? You're really excited.
I am so excited for this. I want it right now. Because I played the ever-living crap out of that game when it was released. So, and it's one of those things where we have been in kind of an RTS drought for a very, very long time. And
at least a good RTS drought. Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, drought for good RTSs.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm so excited about this because there are so many things that I really, really enjoyed about Warcraft 3 that being able to have a remastered copy of that is just going to be fantastic. I mean, the gameplay was always pretty good with that. the customization for custom games and whatnot. And we actually have one of our people at BlizzCon right now, Robin. She was on the I think she was on our last show.
Yep, last show.
And she said that multiplayer in Warcraft 3 Reforged will also work with people who only have the original game.
Interesting.
So if you still have your, potato PC and your dial-up connection and Warcraft 3, you can still play with people who are
and
playing
get excited.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So it looks like we're getting remastered character models, an entirely remastered game, including cinematics. It looks gorgeous. I can't wait for it.
And I think Bowman said a little bit about Warcraft 2 being his one of choice, but was that right?
No, I played Warcraft 3, but not as much as Dame, I'm sure. I was at that point I was a Command and Conquer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and recently I heard news that they're going to be releasing an updated, like original of the Command and Conquer. They're going to do a
Command and Conquer
remaster.
was the one that I actually played. And that
Is that the one where you just build Tesla coils and win?
pretty much. Well, the cool thing about that one too is they moved that one over to the N64, believe it or not, at one point, and I thought that was pretty crazy. But I spent a lot of time playing it on the N64. Just
I was going to say, if you remember, StarCraft also came to N64.
I didn't really play StarCraft. I did play StarCraft eventually, but not at that time.
Dave, we got to learn him up. He doesn't find anything good.
I guess it depends on how you define good.
This is
Command and Conquer, Warcraft, StarCraft.
Those
are all like.
So I really would not mind having a remaster of Warcraft 2 as well. That was also another exceptional RTS. The original Warcraft Orcs versus Humans did not hold up very well even in its own age. So I'm glad that there was a 2.
Yeah,
and a 3.
Yeah, and a 3, and a World of, which, speaking of, we can kind of transition. We can transition to there. We now have the official word that the World of Warcraft Classic servers will be available to people who are actively subscribed to World of Warcraft.
Ooh.
I think this is an incredibly intelligent idea. I think it's smart on a couple of levels. Hear me out.
Okay, I'm gonna wait.
Hear me out.
Tear it to pieces.
Okay.
And then after he tears it to pieces, I have a transition from that.
Yeah. So here's my initial hot take on the classic servers thing. I think that there are a lot of people who like the nostalgia but don't want to go back to broken mechanics. Don't get me wrong. I've played since vanilla, and I remember raiding in vanilla. It's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things though that have changed within the game though since then, which it will be nice to kind of go back and see some of those things. I think it's an incredibly smart idea for them to attach this to a World of Warcraft subscription for a couple of reasons. One is that for those active players who join the game later, it's going to give them the opportunity to go back and see the world as it once was, pre-Cataclysm, pre-Burning Crusade. My wife is actually one of those, that she joined the game just as Burning Crusade was starting. And so she didn't get that vanilla experience, and so is really eager to go back and see that. The other thing is that then you're also going to have people who really missed that type of game and are going to go and are going to resub to go do that, and may get curious and go, hey, I wonder what's actively going on right now in patch 8 point whatever we're at now, and check out what's going on concurrently, and who knows? It may be the war. We may have a resurgence of war crack. And I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't think it's that strong. Nostalgia really only gets you so far. But I think that I think that the way that they're doing it is far better than having a secondary subscription or having a secondary client that you need to purchase to do that.
Well, I mean, I would definitely say that they should never charge a separate subscription for Classic server, because that just would
Didn't Rift do that?
I don't know, but
Rift,
we all know how that turned out. I mean,
we're right.
And we're gonna actually get to that eventually, because that's a good jumping off point as well. But you know, I think right now there's a big clamor for nostalgia in the industry as a whole, where people are like
Star Wars Galaxies.
Well, I mean, in the face of the old colloquialism, you know, you can't go home again. It's like everyone wants to go home again, and now like people are telling, you know, these companies, we want the classic stuff back. We want to remember what it was like. And they have their rose-colored nostalgia glasses on, and they don't really remember what things were like or how things may have changed for the better. And, you know, they go back. But, I mean, if you think about it, like, what are they really going back to? They're going back to a game that is free of all the updates, all the content that's been added, all those kind of things that, you know, the things that they've progressed with. And so how far can a classic server really go? I mean,
well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, going back to looking at World of Warcraft in the vanilla state versus now, at least Blizzard is honest right now that they hate the Horde. You know, if you look back, sorry, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. And if you don't believe me, look up Warlord's Command. Was a quest chain for both the Horde and Alliance in vanilla that attuned you to be able to run the Onyxia raid. But that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. Yeah, you definitely, Steven, go without all of the content updates, all of the balancing, all of the quality of life things that were brought into the game that really changed the way that dungeons were run, for example, and raids were put together and stuff like that. I do not miss sitting for hours in Kargath looking for a group for the Molten Core. Do not miss that whatsoever. I will take my 20 minutes in Raid Finder. I don't care. I'll do it with Puggies. I don't care. I don't miss that at all.
And that's just the thing. It's like you're going back to a game where there's decidedly no future. And that's and to me that is the way that people think they want that. They want this old stuff. But what they're really saying is they want the feeling of everything being new. They want the nostalgia of they get into the game and everything's kind of like new, and it's not so much, you know, that what they're looking for is the old style game. In a way, they're almost looking for a tangent of the same game. They want what they had, but they want it to go in a different direction, a direction where it still has that new feeling, and they think that starting over is the way to get there, but it's not. And there's no way they're going to get that feeling by going back. They're going to take a trip down memory lane, and then they're going to realize this is ridiculous. And then these companies are saying, "Go home, please, because we spent our resources on it. So we did this because you said you wanted this. We spent our resources on it. Please go home again, because this is what you told us to do." And I think that we haven't seen specifically any long-term classic servers working. And I'm not going to talk about Star Wars Galaxy's MUs right now, Bowman, because
that's not what I was transitioning to.
I'm just telling you, as far as like classic servers that have you know, become a thing, but we haven't seen any successful classic servers yet. And I don't think World of Warcraft is going to be the one where we do, even though World of Warcraft is still such a big game.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with that, though, and I can't substantiate this with numbers. So, but I do know that there were private servers that do know that there were private servers that had been seeing a modicum of success. in the way that they were being done. And I don't remember like what patches they were on, but if you remember, I think it was like a year or two ago that Blizzard actually went after them and shut them down.
Yeah.
And then they kind of realized, oh, hey, there really is kind of an audience for this. So, I mean, I think that I think for that type of player that never really left that area, they're going to really, really dig that. But I think for the player that has, I mean, like myself,
that's different though. I think that's different.
I think it is.
One thing that you're also forgetting is that the private servers were probably also free or very, very cheap. And I don't think that that's going to be the same thing. It's these people who are like, who may want to play World of Warcraft or enjoyed playing a specific portion of it with their friends, but they were like, I don't want to keep paying for a game that keeps changing, that it keeps messing things up that I like. I don't think they're going to get there with a classic server. I think maybe that it might bring them back, but ultimately I don't think it's going to win the day with them, because they're not going to, with a private server, you can kind of diverge a little bit as to what you're supporting and what you're not supporting.
That's true. Yep. Or you can pick a particular patch in which, the game is optimized or whatever to your group's liking.
But I don't know. What did you want to push off to, Bowman?
So we were talking about classic servers and Lord of the Rings. The people over at Turbine, and Daybreak, they just announced that they are bringing Lord of the Rings Legendary server to the forefront this fall, and they're going to be going back to the original game the way it was back in 2007 when it first launched, except they are going to have all the classes in it. Mm-hmm. So you can be a warden from the beginning, you can be anything you want basically from the beginning. But you're only going to be able to play up through Angmar, so level 50. But they already have it set up so that every 4 months they're going to bring out new updates. So after 4 months, they'll probably bring out the next area after that, and then the next 4 months, the next area after that. So they're going to bring everything, but they're going to have it as it was before, which honestly, when Lord of the Rings went free to play, they changed a whole bunch of stuff. They made the game easier for people to get caught up to other people, but it kind of ruined the game in that terms because, they put everything together. You don't get the sense that you're exploring Middle Earth anymore. You get the sense that you're catching up to people so you can explore the new stuff. Well, you know what? Who doesn't like going through the Shire as a flute playing hobbit? It is. The original game was a lot better for me than the stuff they have nowadays. Nowadays, I go back in. I'm a lifer, so I've been in since closed beta, and I get lost with some of the new mechanics they have in it. So going back to the Legendary server for VIPs and Legendary or lifer VIPs is great for me. And my father and other people I know who are super stoked about getting back to what we loved and not the stuff which just confuses us all the time.
I think it's an interesting point that they're kind of it makes me feel less like it's a classic server and more along the lines of they're creating more of a treadmill server. Like they're pretty much they're going through the content all over again. Like you've seen it, and they're kind of like allowing people to start slow and then catch up to where things were before. Honestly, if they get to the point where after like a year and they've done all the patches and if they just wiped the server and started over again, I'm sure that a lot of the same people would return and do the same thing again, because the journey so much is the big part of the game that everyone says that they're missing. Everyone wants the feeling of the journey. That's why they want the classic servers, because it was all about the journey. It's not about the destination, which is all what these new updates are about. Hey, here's the progress from here to here instead of the progress from here to here. You're not going like the whole gamut of the progress like you did whenever you first started the game. You're going just like the last little bit, and so everybody has to catch up to just go that little bit.
plus with these new updates for new games, or not new games, but like World of Warcraft or Star Wars: The Old Republic or Lord of the Rings Online, if you come back with a certain expansion, they're like, oh, we're going to give you a free buff to the max level so you can play the good stuff. Well, you do that, and then you're like, what the heck am I supposed to be doing here? I've got a level 120 archer or hunter, whatever you got. You're like, okay.
That was bringing game into Guild Wars 2.
Yes, I was just thinking that, Steven. It was like me trying to come back to Guild Wars 2. Is like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, even though I played, end game stuff way back when. And here I'm jumping into this content completely lost as far as what's going on. I do want to make a couple of comments about the Lord of the Rings Online, and mind you, I absolutely love the IP. I love J.R.R. Tolkien. He is a literary genius, and I love the stuff. But oh my goodness, they need to fix the pacing of that game and need to not lock traits behind microtransactions. That killed it for me.
And that's, I think, part of what I'm talking about, because I don't know how much that's going to be in this new Legendary server, but I mean, on the frequently asked questions page that they have set up, stuff like that, the traits that are locked and using tomes of experience and things like that, those are things that are not going to be used in this Legendary server at start, because it wasn't in the game back in the beginning. Right. So you're going to have a fresh feeling. You're going to be able to level up like you would in the original days of the game, and you're going to be able to get everything that you want to do. So and there's not going to be any legendary weapons until Moria, just like it did before. So it's going to be fresh and good.
So we think.
Hey, I'm all for it. Once I find out what day it's opening, I will be there.
Before we move on away from the BlizzCon stuff, there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the new Overwatch hero. Ashe is the name, and we have a little video of it. And
show the video before I start making Ashe Ketchum jokes.
Yeah. Do either of you play Overwatch? Have you played Overwatch?
I've played Overwatch. I don't play it much. Me and Chris, our wonderful hardware editor, streamed it a while back for Colorful a couple times, but the game is just so hard to stream because, after like an hour of playing it, you're like, okay, I'm pretty much done. And you have to do it for like 2 hours straight. You're like,
I really want. I mean, looking at shorts like this, this really makes me want Blizzard just to open an animation department where all they do is just put out like animations of their IP. Because I would totally watch that all the time.
They should definitely do some like TV shows or something.
Yeah,
some cartoons. We got Diablo, the new hot anime on Netflix.
You never know. I mean, that was kind of some news that we had. That we didn't really plan on talking about it, but the Castlevania Netflix show has been doing pretty well. And then
I still need to watch
they're talking about doing Zelda.
Yeah, exactly. Like for the same was it director or is it the writer, creator? I don't know.
I don't know if it's the people that did I think it's the people that did Castlevania. So
I just don't remember exactly because I didn't plan for the news on that. But I mean, the Castlevania show, there was the fight with Dracula specifically, was so very Castlevania. Like it was so like exactly what you would get from the game itself. And so you never know. I mean, it's completely possible that we might see something from Blizzard show up somewhere. I don't like Overwatch, but this was pretty cool.
Show.
Yeah, you would though. You would like a StarCraft TV show.
Well, that's what I said. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. But that's totally up your alley. That's something that you would like. We are running short on time. We've just got done with the BlizzCon stuff, and
we've hit.
We still need to talk about Fallout 76 beta.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about Tryon and what happened with that.
Another show.
I mean, I think that for people who don't really know, it'd be nice just to hit it real quick.
Go for it, Steven.
Just to let people know, because I didn't play Rift. and I don't play Archage or anything like that. But we do have people on our team who do, and I
played Archage for like a very short amount of time. It wasn't bad, but
I don't think it's a bad game at all. But it's just over the past couple of weeks, while we were on our short hiatus, apparently Tryon was sold to Gamego, which is I can't really say many games that I've played from them, probably none. But I do know who they are. They do a lot of mobile games. They do browser-based games. They do now. I mean, they have some PC games as well. Mostly all free to play. But we don't know what exactly happened there specifically. But we know that they laid off majority of their staff. From Tryon, and how it will affect games like Rift and Archage and all that. I mean, what do you guys think is going to happen? Another thing that's really interesting is that they also, because Tryon also bought the Gazillion assets, and for me personally, I think I knew that whenever Tryon bought them, that I knew Disney wasn't going to give the rights back. And I still feel like Disney is not going to give the rights back, especially to Gamego, but Disney hasn't exactly given its IPs out to exceptionally reputable companies. I mean, they gave it to Gazillion, and they were pretty much unknown. Yeah. But, I guess it is possible because Gamego, they do produce a lot of games. And with strong financial support from them, maybe they could entice Disney to bring it back. Though, most likely nothing's going to happen in that vein. And all the Marvel Heroes characters will probably be turned into something generic like elves. And Gamego will create Super Elves, the mobile game, and it'll be in direct competition with Diablo Immortal. What do you guys think about this? Is this like the
Thanos snap of the gaming world right now that we're experiencing?
Hey, it works when you look at the two Marvel shows that were just canceled.
Yeah, right.
Kind of true.
I think I wonder, going back to our conversation about private servers and everything that happened with, was it Rift Prime that they were calling? Okay,
Rift Prime. Yep.
Okay, so I wonder if Rift Prime just didn't take off the way that they thought it was going to. And they just kind of put their eggs in that basket, and financially it just tanked.
Yeah.
And so then they ended up in a spot where, you have a bigger fish that comes along and says, hey, we see that you don't have money. We have money. We can do something about this.
To quote my favorite Jedi Master, there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, with the future of those IP. If there are, still people that are playing those things. I'm so far removed from Rift that, I couldn't tell you. But going back to the comments about, Disney not giving out their IP, it will be really, really interesting to see what they do. I mean, Marvel stuff is a cash cow. I mean, it is a money maker. I mean, we're seeing that with the movies and with how well Spider-Man did. And so I kind of wonder what their next move is. I mean, the House of Mouse likes to turn a dollar. So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's not exactly like Disney has their own interactive studio anymore. So, it'll be interesting to see who they bequeath the rights to next, and if they will be
Disney
worthy
had
of
their own little thing going there with what were those games that they had running? It was like Skylanders. I love them.
Oh, Disney Infinite.
Me and my son
Disney
loved
Infinity.
those. And the Star Wars version of it, we loved them. And then they're like,
they were so cool.
these are done. I was like, characters. Why are these done? They're like so cool.
Yeah, they were really cool, and I don't know why they decided to discontinue them. I remember when they did, though. A buddy of mine went out and he just bought like a bunch of the little figures because they were just so cool.
I wish I had. I've got 6 of them sitting up next to my BB-8 remote control droid, looking like they're little statuettes.
Nice.
They're pretty cool. But yeah, so for those who weren't in the know, Tryon staff is gone. Most of them. Sad, but them's the breaks, right? And I mean, we've seen a lot of turmoil in October. It was a pretty turmoilish month. Turmoilish is word. And now with turkey holidays upon us, I can only hope to see a better November, right? And with that in mind,
it's still early.
I know we are all playing Fallout 76.
The betas, tune in tomorrow when I go live.
The betas have been mostly successful. And now
I've only had 2 crashes out of 6 hours of playing, so that's pretty good for stress testing.
And that's Xbox, and I was on PS4. I didn't have any crashes. I didn't have any slowness. I didn't have any issues, except some of the minor glitches. I had, and I don't know if this happens in what version are you playing, Dame?
I'm playing on PC.
Okay, so we've got a good, like, well-rounded idea.
You've got the swath of where it's going to be.
And so one of the issues that I was getting pretty often is enemies would get either stuck in the ground or stuck on a wall, and they wouldn't attack me. They would just, like, stand there looking at me. They wouldn't even attempt to attack me. They would just, like, be stuck in a wall, like, and then I would just come up and kill them and steal their stuff. That happened
I didn't have that problem. I didn't have that problem. I did have the problem where, you know, those military drops that you can get.
Yeah.
I had one of them spawn inside of a building that you could not get into. I was like, I can't complete the side quest because I can't get to the dang chest.
That never happened to me.
For me, I had a couple of mutants kind of stick in their like wireframe pose.
Oh yeah.
So they're just like gliding across the land. It was like the freakiest thing. It was the freakiest thing ever. Because I'm running across this riverbed and I just see this group just like floating across there, and then like they just turn, look at me, and it was like something out of a horror movie.
So you weren't aware that they added super mutant ghosts into this game?
Yeah, apparently they did. That was. I've had a couple of textural issues, and I had that, but outside of that, stability was all right. I mean, it's. I think the game is pretty much built on the Fallout 4 engine, so I mean you're getting like a lot of texture mapping and stuff like that from there. So I mean it's
graphically on the Xbox One X, it looks beautiful to me. So,
and I'm on the PS4 Pro. It also looks really good. No complaints. But I mean, as far as we've all had a chance to play it. So what pros and cons have you guys seen now that we've all had hands-on time, and has it changed your mind over from the original announcement, like on how you fall on the game?
So I like the game. I mean, it still feels like Fallout to me. Some people have even argued with me that it was a battle royale game. It's like, no, farthest from a battle royale game you can get. You have to like actually challenge somebody into a duel, and they have to accept it to actually get killed or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, if you die, you don't lose your stuff. You lose your junk, and you have to go pick it back up from your paper bag.
I hate that.
Looks like a lunch bag, but
if you read my article about things to do while you're starting the game, you would.
I did. I haven't played since I read your article.
Save your stuff often. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. I do that.
No, you're good. So yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, that it's graphically sound as far as I'm concerned, except for a few little, you know, like Dame said, glitches here or there. That's not really graphics. That's more animation. Yeah. But as far as the one thing you feel like you're missing from the game is just all the NPCs that you would normally see in the area. Mm-hmm. Even if they didn't do anything, you could still talk to them, get the quests. In this, it's kind of like you get quests from the Overseer's tapes, and then as you go into different areas, you get more missions just for those areas, and then you have world events, which world events is a pretty cool addition to the game, in my opinion. But yeah, just not having that actual interaction with an NPC that's going to give you a quest to do is a lack, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, the only NPCs you really have in the game are the helper bots,
right,
that you go to, and they're basically the vendors in the game. So it's my opinion. I see Dave giving me a face. So
well, I'm like reserving what I'm going to say until after Steven shares his thoughts, because I talked a lot about Fallout 76 a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is important because you were the one, you've probably had the most hands-on time of any of us. So it's interesting to see how you feel about it after all this playtime. And we don't have a whole bunch of time, and we still have some other things I wanted to get to, but
okay.
I am going to say one of the things that got me initially is everyone was complaining it's not an MMO, it's not an MMO. You know, we want more players, we want more this, we want more that. I got in the game. You know, I've made it up to I'm past level 8. I'm close to level 9. So I've had an ample amount of time playing the game. During that time, I saw several players, and I can say unequivocally that you do not want this game to be an MMO. You really just don't, because I mean, a lot of the time that I spent playing and seeing other players, half the time they mistook me for an enemy. You know, and even though like I never actually got into a fight with anybody, you know, it didn't really feel so much that that I needed more players to make the game better in any way. You know, the feeling of the wasteland at times whenever you're in like a major hub where there's a questing hub. See, that's the big thing about the beta itself, is because you start out in the same area, you kind of run through the same thing, so you run into players initially a lot. Like you see other players around you, and whenever I'm in these areas, you know, they're out there, they're shooting things, they're killing things, they're doing things that I want to do. And even though like I noticed that when someone else killed something, I still have the possibility to get loot from it. Yep. It still changed my experience, because I didn't feel so much that I was in a wasteland. I felt like I was in a more populated area, and there were more players out there, more people doing what I wanted to do. There are little dungeons that you can go in and do things in that I really enjoyed doing things in, but it really killed it for me whenever I was trying to do something like solve a puzzle or something like that, and someone else got to it before me. I would hate to see this be an MMO where everything that I want to do has already been done and I'm just going along on rails for the ride. So I really think that really changed, and it changed what I thought was going to be a con of it not being an MMO to being a major pro, that there's not going to be that many players in the world with me, and that I can just maybe group up with my friends and you guys and just enjoy my time playing the game. And it really switched it from being like I'm not even considering like really buying the game right now to I think I'm going to buy it and be like first day, you know, I'll be there on the first day playing it with everybody else, you know?
And the thing about that too is that even if somebody gets to something before you do in the game, as soon as they're done with it, you have full access to it.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
If you're repairing something and you have to go to the computer and input the data tape that you need to input, you can't do it if somebody's standing there using it.
Right.
It says, "Oh, this is being used," or this person's busy right now.
Right.
As soon as they walk away, you go right into it. It's as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
So you get to do your mission, you get to go, and there's no delays except for maybe the 1 or 2 minutes while these people are trying to figure out what the heck they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, in one of the dungeons, there was this thing where you had to like put in a passcode for to get into a locked case or something like that. And then I had gone through and I had like picked up the passcode and everything, like, and by me opening that door, it opens the door for everybody else. And so like, for other people who experience that, like, because I know I saw people standing at the door trying to figure out how to get in there, and I was the only one who actually like got the passcode and did it. And when I opened that door, it was like everybody was like freaking out on how I did it, and they all just ran in.
That's when you say in open. That's when you say in open chat, "Hey guys, I heard that, you know, we're supposed to go down to this next level and find this stuff," and then you wait for them all to leave, and then you go back and open the door.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to be a jerk about it or anything, but it was just one of those things where, like, if I did that to somebody and I went through the experience of, like, feeling the accomplishment of opening something that other people couldn't open or whatever, that was an accomplishment to me. And other people who were waiting there or something like that didn't have to go through that, and still they benefit from me opening this door. So in other words, like, I like, the accomplishment and the feeling of doing that. So if I go to an area where there's a door that's already open or something that's already done that I wanted to do or figure out for myself, that's going to kind of kill the game a little bit for me. And in an MMO scenario where you have, 100 people in the same area doing the same quests, finding the same things, you're always going to have these doors open, or you're going to have someone who finds a way in or something like that. And it kills a lot of the game and the feel for what Fallout really is, a wasteland.
Well, and this is where I think one of the things that has been the most solidifying for me in my experience with this round of betas, and that is that this Fallout game makes players lean into the RP of this game. And when I say leaning into the RP, I'm not saying like, okay, now I'm going to be Joe somebody and I'm this, that, and the other. No, what I mean is like you actually have to figure out and use your imagination to figure out like what's going on in the world around you. I don't think that I've ever experienced a game. I should walk that back here a second. I don't know that I've experienced many games that have done this so well, in which they present a world and they set the stages of things and make you fill in the blanks as far as story goes.
Right.
In my experience, what I tried to do in this beta was to go in a completely opposite direction from what I did during the preview event. During the preview event, I had a team of other people that I ran around with, and we, explored and did our things, and that was great. I decided that I wanted to try to set out on my own and see what that experience was like.
Right.
And it was a really lonely experience, but also I didn't necessarily mind that so much. Because it allowed me the freedom to be able to stop and take a look around at what was going on. There was one particular moment in which I had set up my camp, and I was trying to get from one location to the other, and so I set my camp up like halfway between where Vault 76 was and where this location was. And the one time I'd come back to my camp, I had noticed that there was a manor house that was on the map that I hadn't quite explored yet. Mm-hmm. And so I went over to this manor house, and I'm like looking around, and I'm seeing painter's scaffolding and half-painted walls. And as I'm climbing up the scaffolding and I make my way up onto the roof, I see this two skeletons of a couple like sitting on the roof holding hands, like looking out to where the bombs would have dropped. I mean, that's like one of the most depressing things to come across, but at the same point in time you're going, okay, this is where these people were when all of this happened. And so you're coming up on this and having to answer those questions of like, what happened here and what's going on and how did we get here and where do we go from this point.
Right.
I really like that element of discovery where there's just enough breadcrumb story for you to follow that trail, but also enough that's environmental and enough that is just of those events that pop up or those things that you run into, that it's the distraction of, oh, hey, I can find out what's going on over here, or I wonder what happened to this particular place.
Right.
We had a question in the chat about the beta wipe or the non-existent beta wipe, and whether or not we thought that was a good idea. Bowman already said in chat that he did like the idea. He didn't like wasting his time and having to take all that time playing in areas and searching where he'd already been. I would agree. I absolutely would agree. And I think one of the things that does do for players of the beta is that it enables them to be able to pass along, like Bowman was saying, pass along materials and pass along things to outgoing players. I'm actually looking forward to that. I have a lot of ideas of things that I want to do in this game once it launches.
Yeah.
So you may want to be on the lookout for the Church in the Wastelands. That may be a thing. Just saying.
There are churches in this, aren't there?
Oh,
I think I've been into one or two.
Oh, I know.
It's a little bit different.
But
actually, I think that
I might lean really hard into that RP.
The first area you come to as part of the storyline is actually a church where the headquarters is. So I can see Dame up there. Welcome to the Wasteland.
One thing that I didn't really enjoy as much, I mean, they have events and things like that, but one thing that Bowman mentioned early on in his playtime, which I found to be the same, was that you don't really get rewarded for doing other things as much as I would like. I mean, I spent probably my first couple hours of playtime. I knew where the quest objectives were, where they were, and I went the opposite direction just to see, because that's what I love doing in a Fallout game, is I love not paying attention to what the real quests are. And I went to other locations, did other things, and the problem with that is that you don't progress nearly as fast when you do stuff like that. I mean, I went from being once I was done with my side missions and went straight to just the main missions, I went from being level 2 all the way to level 8 in no time flat. As long as you're doing the story quests, you level up really quickly. But I really wish they would incentivize doing other things.
And the one thing I hope they change after the beta is over is the cap situation.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Fallout 3, New Vegas, Fallout 4, you can go in an area, you can kill a whole bunch of things, you can steal everybody's weapons and armor, you can go sell them and make a couple hundred caps just off one trip. Well, I sell guns and junk and all this other stuff, and I barely made 50 caps.
Yeah, but you also have to look. You also have to look at this from a lore perspective too. I mean, this is it was 30 years outside of the the bombs dropping, and so that type of economy may not be 100% set up just yet.
Then they need to drop the price of some of the stuff you have to buy is my concern, because I'm sitting here with no stim packs and nothing to use to make stim packs, and I've got 20 caps, and stim packs are 94 caps up a stim. You can't buy weapons, you can't do anything. I mean, thankfully you pick up enough weapons that are halfway decent in the world. I mean, I got a laser pistol if I can find some batteries for them.
Just crafting, man. That's what I spent most of my time doing, was crafting, which you also don't get.
And some of the stuff I can't find to be able to make the things I need, having to find enough materials to make bullets and stuff.
Because for me, my idea whenever I heard about this game was I wanted to be like a traveling salesman type of person, a trader of note. And I wanted to be able to, go around, set up a shop, and sell things to people. So early on, I collected every single thing I could possibly find, and I started building and crafting and things like that. And of course, it ended up weighing heavily on me, quite literally, which slowed my gameplay quite a bit. But
I had such a weight problem in Bethesda games.
Yeah, me too. I found that to be the case, because because what I also noticed is that it's the way that they did it is they made a Fallout game where you play on survival mode, but also kind of easy mode, where everything has a weight. Everything's kind of tough. You can't just kind of cheese your way through a lot of the content. But they also kind of made it a little easier too, because death doesn't you don't lose very much. Your gear doesn't break so easily in some cases. And then the damage enemies do, at least early on, is not so tough on you that you can't live through it, because there were several times, since there's no pause feature, there are several times I'm sitting there looking, in my gear, something comes up and starts hitting me, and normally in Fallout I would be dead by the time I close my Pip-Boy, but I lived through several of those experiences, so they
or random players just shooting you in the back, thinking it's going to do something really big to you, and it mostly just scares the crap out of you. Who's shooting me?
That happened a lot. But yeah, so altogether, it sounds like we're still widely interested in playing the game and looking forward to its release.
Indeed. Yep.
Indeed.
Well, good to know. So the game releases in just 2 weeks, and just in time for the turkey holiday here in the U.S. So you know, there's no doubt people will be spending ample amounts of time with Deathclaws instead of their family around the day.
Has anybody seen a Deathclaw yet?
Yes.
Well,
I've seen Super Mutants. I haven't seen Deathclaws.
You got to go to Deathclaw Island.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
So we're not gonna
So I'm talking about in this experience, not your let's go to Bethesda and see everything firsthand.
I just went to the Greenbrier. It wasn't quite Bethesda, you know, but potato.
We'll see how that all turns out.
Which, by the way, White Sulphur Springs in the game, that's the location if you want to see where I was.
Awesome.
Nice.
I'm sure it looks a little different. There?
No, it actually looks the same. It is uncanny how close they got it. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. It was such a surreal moment, like standing outside of the room where we were beta testing the game.
Nice.
Wow. And there's a skeleton there with a name tag that says Dame. Just watch.
So we do have a couple other things I wanted to touch base on, and we're going to have to touch them really quickly. And so, you know, it feels like the release is getting closer every day, but Torchlight Frontiers. I know they announced that there's going to be safe houses, base building, player housing kind of thing. From how it sounds, that requires players to build and outfit said bases so they can unlock and buy skills, unlock advancement paths, and the like, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of cool. Another cool thing that they mentioned about that is that you know, each class has their own special buildings to build, and that if you build up those buildings, your friends of the same class can come in and buy skills and things like that from your base instead. So like if you're like, hey, I really want to like level up this one particular character, and you work really hard on it, and your friend's like, oh, I'd like to start that, they can come in and get all the stuff from you and learn that kind of stuff.
Give me that game now. I'm ready for it.
I know. I'm not ready for it. I've got too many other games that we've got to play and do things with.
This is true. Sometime about mid-January, early February would be a great time for me.
Exactly. That would be perfect.
Yep.
So there's also going to be crafting and storage features. So they've expanded a lot of what people know from Torchlight and what they're going to be able to do. And I think it's going to be really cool. Next thing we're going to touch on, I don't care about what you guys think about that. I already know what you think about that. But Destiny 2 is free until the 18th.
Yeah, it is.
Bowman mentioned that, and Dame also mentioned that. So I'm throwing that out there. But
yeah, if you do not have the Battle.net application, go out, get yourself the Battle.net application, download Destiny 2, and play one of the greatest shooters that you will ever play.
I am going to...
Shots fired, Bowman.
PUBG's still better.
Throw out a little question here, though. So last month, Forsaken has done exceptionally well. Yeah, September. Yeah. So 2 months ago. But I think it beat out Spider-Man, which is the best-selling game ever on the PlayStation, is what they said.
I still haven't played it.
But anyway, so Forsaken, are you still spending a lot of time in it, or
I am still going strong. I just got a fantastic exotic shotgun here today, and a guitar emote. Actually, they brought back the Festival of the Lost, which was a Halloween sort of holiday that they did in Destiny 1, and it was such an incredibly well done event. There were so many, great rewards for it, and the 3-week period of time just brought so many different elements to it. So yes, I am still playing it very, very strongly. It is one of my go-to games.
Well, I guess that's good to hear. You should get a lot of use out of that one.
Indeed.
So, you know what? I don't know how we didn't mention this before. It was on the list earlier, and we don't really have a lot of time to talk about it, but Red Dead Redemption 2, it is out. It released during this time. It's been making waves. Have you guys had a chance to give it a shot yet? Play through it at all?
Nope.
I know we have a lot on our plates, but something passed by our news Slack earlier, where there's a very weird glitch where the horses are spontaneously combusting when they're on a specific road.
Aliens.
I mean, I don't
know.
There's
that movie with Harrison Ford and what's his name, James Bond. There, right? Yeah. Cowboys and aliens or whatever. That's what's going on.
That is true. So apparently, cowboys and their horses are catching fire on a particular road.
Correct.
And all I can say is I like the realism of Red Dead Redemption. Because seriously, spontaneously combusting horses is why we all switched to automobiles in the first place.
Right.
So,
right.
There was another glitch.
You don't see no cars setting on fire.
There was another thing I saw. They're like, or the video was like, we love the horse realism in this game, and this horse's tail was sticking like straight out from its backside, and the guy walked through it. And it just sat there, and it was like sitting through him. Like, yep, this is great realism.
Yeah.
Mr. Chris gave it a 10. What the heck, man?
It's definitely. There were definitely some glitches, but
yes, every game has glitches, but this one seems to be getting some very well publicized glitches.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very
it's a high profile game right now. So you're
it's just
an important release, is what I was going to say there. But that's all we're going to really have time for as far as the news. We're already over, and we still have to do plugs. So let's go ahead and hit those real quick. Bowman, what do you got going on?
I'm doing a review for Dreadnought, which is a multiplayer. It's an MMO, we'll say. It's kind of in the same vein as World of Tanks, except you're flying massive super spaceships in space. So
right up your alley.
Not even necessarily in space either, because there's some.
It's a pretty sweet game.
On the
ground, underwater or something.
Land. No, you're on planets. Sometimes you're in planets, sometimes you're in space. Depends where you are. Right. But it's pretty fun. I just finished my first Star Trek Online article, detailing Age of Discovery a little bit. Bill said that's going to be out here soon, probably next week, I would expect. But I did a little gameplay video on a stream, cut that up a little bit, best I could. I got 10 minutes out of 2 hours worth of streaming that's going to be in there, just to show off some of the ships that are being added. Hoping to do something like that maybe once a month for Star Trek Online with the updates that they push out. I mean, they do them quite often. And that game has gotten... Bring it back. Talk. English is hard, man. When Star Trek Online began, it was pretty horrible. And I beta tested
Agreed.
It. After Perfect World picked it up, and they added things into it like there's titles as you start your missions now. It made it so much more Trek than it ever was before, and the cutscenes and everything has improved. But I talk a lot about, or quite a bit about the ships, the new ships and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. I just got Townsman that I'm reviewing for Switch. I don't know when that's supposed to be out. Don't know what I can or cannot talk about, so that's what I'm going to say about that. And other than that, I'm waiting for a couple pieces of hardware to come in for reviews, but we'll see when they get here.
Okie dokie.
And then if anybody wants to follow me while I'm streaming Star Trek Online or anything else, just pick me up at twitch.tv/thewolf1.
Awesome.
Dame, what do you got going on?
I've got 3 things that I'm going to plug here this evening. Thing number 1 is that I have a beautiful Gigabit RTX 2070 that you can find my review on MMORPG for that. So we kind of break down a little bit of what the performance of that looks like. The best use case right now, while we don't have anything that is RTX enabled just yet, or anything that has deep learning super sampling either. And the question that's on everybody's mind, which is, should I buy a card like this now or not? So, so you'll be able to find that within that article. Going to be releasing a review coming up here real soon for a tower offensive game for the Nintendo Switch called the Legend of Evil. It's kind of an interesting take on a quasi Castlevania sort of story. So it's a fantastic music. There's fantastic music to the game.
Intriguing.
Really it encapsulates like the 16-bit chiptune sort of thing. So pretty good. But the big thing that I want to plug, huge thing that I want to plug, bigger than gigabit here that I want to plug. My good friends Matt and Sarah are participating with an organization called Extra Life. If you are not familiar with Extra Life, you need to be familiar with Extra Life. There are live stream charities that are going on all the time to raise money for different children's hospitals. So their team Nether, the Netherwings, they are going to be streaming tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can find them on twitch.tv/rollthelevel. That is our podcast, but we'll be hosting there for 24 hours. Matt and team are trying to raise money for one of their local children's hospitals in St. Catharines, Ontario. So please, if you do nothing else with all of this information, make sure you tune in there. You can find out where you can give, what the money goes towards, and all that. Be a part of something big here as you do something with your gaming. We have the ability with all of us around the globe to do amazing things to come together. And in our culture where there's a lot of disunity and a lot of disharmony, it's good for us to be able to focus on those things that we can do well together. So that is my plug, and I will leave my plugs there. You can follow me at on Twitter at Pastor Dame, and Steven, we'll throw it back to you.
Excellent. I'll try and catch it. So this week, all I'm really going to be able to plug, I've got a couple things that I'd like to talk about. So the GameSpace Game Show, we are a podcast. I know that a lot of people tune in and they watch it here because people on the podcast, if you haven't tuned into the live stream and you're part of the show, as you know, we take questions and comments and we talk about them. But aside from that, people who are maybe watching this live and they don't know that they can tune into the podcast, listen to our past episodes, of which we have many great ones, including some developer interviews, just general topics about what's going on in the industry, as well as just, just lighthearted frivolity. Is that, can we just, is that?
I think we can say that, yeah.
I think we can say that.
We try not to take ourselves too seriously most of the time.
Of course.
Wait, who takes himself seriously?
So we have a lot of great episodes that you guys can check out. You can check us out on all the places, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, pretty much anywhere where there's a podcast, we're going to be there. The other thing I'd like to plug this week, I'm going to have a review of My Hero 1's Justice.
Oh, nice.
Which I've been able to play on PlayStation 4.
Dave is jealous.
If you are a fan of My Hero Academia, it's a great anime. It's also a manga. Great show.
The music is fantastic.
Also, yes, fantastic music. I am going to have a review, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but if you're wondering whether or not you should pick it up because you like those things, I would say please read my review first. But aside from that, I think that's all we really have time for in terms of plugs. I do have one more thing I will plug. We didn't get to talk about this because we ran out of time. This is something that I wanted to talk about. It's the Bless free-to-play conversion. We're going to have my final review on it. I've done every single review over Bless's storied history into the Western version. And this is going to be my final review on it, the launch review of the free-to-play version. So I think everyone already has made up their mind on it, but if you haven't, definitely check that out. And that's going to be it for this week's episode. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Have fun, guys.